We're back with the next chapter of Read Aloud and Questions of Lois Lowry's Number the Stars. This chapter 7, The House by the Sea, is going to be a brave new look. We've moved to a new setting since the last chapter, and in this chapter I want us to really focus on the ways that the setting can signify some symbolism, can have some meaning in it, and also the ways that Annemarie is changing. We're going to see her making some big steps as a character, so let's get started. "Oh, Annemarie," Ellen said with awe in her voice. "It's beautiful." Annemarie looked around and nodded her head in agreement. The house and the meadows that surrounded it were so much a part of her childhood, a part of her life, that she didn't often look at them with fresh eyes. But now she did, seeing Ellen's pleasure. And it was true, they were beautiful. The little red-roofed farmhouse was very old, its chimney crooked, and even the small, shuttered windows tilted at angles. A bird's nest, wispy with straw, was half hidden in the corner where the roof met the wall above the bedroom window. Nearby, a gnarled tree was still speckled with few apples, now long past ripe. Mom and Kirsty had gone inside, but Annemarie and Ellen ran across the high-grassed meadow through the late wildflowers. From nowhere, a gray kitten appeared and ran beside them, pouncing here and there upon imagined mice, pausing to lick its paws and then darting off again. It pretended to ignore the girls, but looked back often to be sure that they were still there, apparently pleased to have playmates. The meadow ended at the sea, and the gray water licked there at the damp brown grass, flattened by the wind and bordered by smooth, heavy stones. "I have never been this close to the sea," Ellen said. "Of course you have. You've been to the harbor in Copenhagen 1,000,000 times. Ellen laughed. "I mean the real sea, the way it is here, open like this, a whole world of water." Annemarie shook her head in amazement. To live in Denmark, a country surrounded by water, and to never have stood at its edge? "Your parents are really city people, aren't they?" Ellen nodded. "My mother's afraid of the ocean," she said, laughing. "She said it's too big for her and too cold." The girls sat on a rock and took off their shoes and socks. They tiptoed across the damp stones and let the water touch their feet. It was cold. They giggled and stepped back. Annemarie leaned down and picked up a brown leaf that floated back and forth with the movement of the water. "Look," she said, "this leaf may have come from a tree in Sweden. It could have blown from a tree into the sea and floated all the way across. See over there?" she said, pointing. "See the land way across there? That's Sweden." Ellen cupped one hand over her eye and looked across the water at the misty shoreline that was another country. "It's not so very far," she said. "Maybe," Annemarie suggested, "standing over there are two girls just our age, looking across and saying, 'That's Denmark.'" They squinted into the hazy distance, as if they might see Swedish children standing there and looking back. But it was too far. They saw only the hazy strip of land and two small boats bobbing up and down in the gray ruffles separating the water. "I wonder if one of those is your Uncle Henrik's boat," Ellen said. "Maybe. I can't tell. They're too far away. Uncle Henrik's boat is named the Ingeborg," she told Ellen, "from Mama." Ellen looked around. "Does he keep it right here? Does he tie it up so it won't float away?" Annemarie laughed. "Oh, no. In town at the harbor, there's a big dock, and all the fishing boats go and come from there. That's where they unload their fish. You should smell it. At night, there are all those anchored in the harbor." "Annemarie! Ellen!" Mama's voice came across the meadow. The girls looked around and saw her waving to them. They turned, picked up their shoes, and began walking toward the house. The kitten, who had settled comfortably on the stony shore, rose immediately and followed them. "I took Ellen down to show her the sea," Annemarie explained when they reached the place where Mama waited. "She'd never been that close before. We started to wade, but it was too cold. I wish we had come in the summer so we could swim." "It's cold even then," Mama said. She looked around. You didn't see anyone, did you? You didn't talk to anyone? Annemarie shook her head. Just the kitten. Ellen had picked it up and it lay purring in her arms. She stroked its small head and talked to it softly. I meant to warn you. You must stay away from people while we're here. But there's no one around here, Annemarie reminded her. Even so, if you see anyone at all, even someone you know, one of Hendrik's friends, it is better if you come to the house. It is too difficult, maybe even dangerous, to explain who Ellen is. Ellen looked up and bit her lip. There aren't soldiers here, too? She asked. Mama sighed. I'm afraid there are soldiers everywhere, and especially now this is a bad time. I want to pause here and just discuss the very beginning of what we've seen in this chapter. We've seen a few different settings. We've been hanging out in Inga's town from when she was a child. We're here on the coast of Denmark in this peaceful, natural landscape. As they're running through the meadows and wading in the water by the sea, we can really tell that this place gives a sense of calm. Now, we've also noticed the old farmhouse, which seems just a little bit out of shape, just a little bit quirky, just a little bit lived in. It's a very sweet, nice location. And then Annemarie points out this leaf that has traveled across the sea potentially from Sweden to Denmark. She imagines this, and that gives us a moment to kind of juxtapose these two countries. The most important thing you need to know about Sweden and Denmark at this time is that Denmark had already been taken over by the Nazis, and so the German soldiers were going around trying to find Jewish people. But Sweden was fighting against the Nazis. They felt like they could keep them out, and Sweden was a safe haven for Jewish people. At this last little bit, as Mama starts to interrogate them, we realize that even though this beautiful coastal village, Gilleleje, gives us a sense of calm, it's still not truly safe. No place is truly safe for a young Jewish girl in World War II. Let's continue this story. Come now and help me fix supper. Henrik will be home soon. Watch the step there, it's loose. Do you know what I've done? I found enough apples for applesauce. Even though there is no sugar, the apples are sweet. Henrik will bring home some fish, and there is wood for the fire. So tonight we will be warm and well fed. It's not a bad time then, Annemarie told her. Not if there's applesauce. Ellen kissed the kitten's head and let it leap from her arms to the ground. It darted away and disappeared in the tall grass. They followed Mama into the house. That night, the girls dressed for bed in the small upstairs bedroom they were sharing, the same bedroom that had been Mama's when she was a little girl. Across the hall, Kirsty was already asleep in the wide bed that had once belonged to Annemarie's grandparents. Ellen touched her neck after she had put Annemarie's flower spring nightgown, which Mama had packed. Where's my necklace? She said. What did you do with it? I hid it in a safe place, Annemarie told her. A very secret place where no one will ever find it, and I will keep it there for you until it is safe for you to wear it again. Ellen nodded. Papa gave it to me when I was very small, she explained. She sat down on the edge of the old bed and ran her fingers along the handmade quilt that covered it. The flowers and birds, faded now, had been stitched onto the quilt by Annemarie's great-grandmother many years before. I wish I knew where my parents were, Ellen said in a small voice as she outlined one of the appliqued birds with her fingers. Annemarie didn't have an answer for her. She patted Ellen's hand, and they sat together silently. Through the window they could see a thin, round slice of moon appear through the clouds against the pale sky. The Scandinavian night was not very dark yet, though soon, when winter came, the night would not only be dark, but very long. The night skies, beginning in the late afternoon and lasting through the morning. From downstairs, they could hear Mama's voice and Uncle Henrik's talking, catching up on news. Mama missed her brother when she hadn't seen him for a while, Annemarie knew. They were very close. Mama always teased him gently for not marrying. She asked him, laughing when they were together, whether he had found a good wife yet, one who would keep his house tidier. Henrik teased back and told Mama that she should come to Gilleleje to live again, so that he wouldn't have to do all the chores by himself. For a moment, to Annemarie, listening, it seemed like all the earlier times. The happier visits to the farm in the past with summer daylight extending beyond bedtime, with the children tucked away in the bedrooms and the grown-ups downstairs talking. But there was a difference. In the earlier times, she had always overheard laughter. Tonight, there was no laughter at all. So just briefly, I want you to notice all those moments in that chapter when objects or things that they're wearing or places where they are take these characters back into the past. In Gilleleje, we have this mood of nostalgia where we're reflecting back on other times. But there are sometimes things that are just a little bit different. Annemarie is different. Her relationship with Ellen is different. She seeks to comfort her friend. She tells her friend that she will take care of that necklace. And she's starting to notice the change. There's no laughter this time, not on this vacation. Join me again for the next chapter.